Hello and welcome, welcome, welcome. Whether you are joining us live or watching the video as it's recorded, either way is great. I'm Curtis Morrison. This is Let's Talk Immigration, episode number 48. First, I wanted to talk about a development in the world that I work in, which is primarily federal litigation on immigration matters. There has been an order that has been issued by a district judge in Pennsylvania last week, I think Thursday or Friday, and it is very exciting. The reason it is exciting is because a lot of times when we file these mandamus lawsuits, here, I'll show it to you. What happens is judges say, oh, we don't have any jurisdiction over this. And here we've got a judge that says we enjoy subject matter jurisdiction over the claims of unreasonable delay. This was a lawsuit that was over an unreasonable delay at NVC for Pakistani family, 2 sibling petitions. They had reached the priority date had become current like in 2020. And the judge said, no, I'm not going to let the government dismiss this case. And so the unreasonable delay claims survived. Basically, if you go to the end of the order, he has lots of footnotes. It's a very well-reasoned order. This judge did a really good job. Okay. The attorney had sued Director Jadal, which is over the USCIS, and that wasn't relevant because this was an NVC mandamus. It was families waiting for interviews at U.S. Embassy Islamabad. These are the footnotes. Where's the conclusion? Where did he sign? But it says the parties may proceed to discovery on the issue of unreasonable delay and the processing of the petitions for the brothers, sisters, nieces, and nephews under the Administrative Procedure Act. So it was a great order. It was in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. I'm going to be filing more lawsuits in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania and recommending that the judges follow this example. And also, I've filed this order, as you see, as an Exhibit A, and 2 lawsuits that have pending mandamus, pending motions to dismiss, so the judges can consider taking this way of thinking also. Basically, that unreasonable delay claims are not ripe at the motion to dismiss stage. So, very exciting. If you're going to file a mandamus lawsuit, now might be a good time to file one because we've got a judge that is sympathetic to unreasonable delay, which is awesome. So I filed it as a supplemental authority in a case I have pending in DC for both NVC cases. This one is for 2 minor sons. They're waiting on an interview from Nairobi, and then one in a case called Iqbal in the Eastern District of California, where the plaintiffs are waiting for interviews at Islamabad. So this one was really relevant to that, right? Very comparable case. Different visa categories, but same principle applied. So if you're interested in a mandamus lawsuit, reach out to us because now's a good time. Okay. I wonder if I have any other updates. The DV 2025 program starts today, right? I haven't paid any attention, so I haven't heard how it's going so far. Hopefully the website hasn't crashed yet. Be really careful with your entry if you're entering. If you're a client for DV 2020 and DV 2021, I recommend that you enter for DV 2025. You can have 2 concurrent paths going at the same time, and it's always good to have a plan B. If you're an F4 or F3 beneficiary that's waiting for your case to be current and you're in one of these countries where you're DV eligible, enter the DV lottery, because it very well could give you a path to the United States before your family-based petition. And it's always good to have a plan B. It's probably also true for adult children of U.S. citizens or green card holders, so F2B or F1. Also, you all should be entering this DV lottery also. Okay, let's switch to question and answers. If you have a question, the best place to ask it is on YouTube and Facebook, and it comes up on my screen. Not ideal to ask in Telegram right now because the person that's usually staffing that is not available. So if you go to YouTube or Facebook, put it in the comments, it shows up here and I can put it on my screen. See, watch. Here's a question from YouTube. Hamza says, I'm a good luck plaintiff. In a case we won the appeal, does the files who are still at MVC have a chance to issue a visa? Great question, Hamza. What the question presumes is if we win the appeal, right? Because we don't know if we will win it yet. We won't know until the order is issued by the Circuit Court of Appeals. And also, we'll need to still win summary judgment in good luck. I'm confident that we will, but we've got 2 steps with good luck. So the status of a case, it may say on SEAC that it's still at NBC, but I don't think that that's a reason why you would not be eligible. We won 6,914 visas in that lawsuit. That's how many were reserved. And there were not 6,914 cases already at embassy. So plus the ones at embassy may not be found eligible. Some of them may not be, right? Some of them don't qualify for the work experience or education requirement, for example. So I would say whether or not your case is at KCC, NBC, or whether or not it's at the embassy is not determinative of whether or not you will be issued a visa or not from good luck reserved visas. Basically, continue waiting and be helpful. Okay, Jesus is F4 category. That's a sibling of a U.S. citizen. Priority date October 2006, DQ April 2020, Islamabad. This is almost identical to the lawsuit I just showed. When to expect interview letters? It's been decades now waiting for the interview letter. I don't have the queue in front of me, and also I don't even know if it really exists. What I would recommend is a mandamus lawsuit in that situation. If your petitioner lives in Pennsylvania, especially, because that's where I want to file these cases. But wherever your petitioner lives, if the government's causing an unreasonable delay, the way we remedy that is we go to court. Okay, so that's what I would recommend. I do not know when it would organically happen. I would say it's not organically happening for others with that DQ date because that's the DQ date in this lawsuit and they aren't issued yet, but they probably will be very soon now that this judge has shown that he's taken the claim serious. Said he, I don't know if the judge is, it's Judge Kearney. I don't know if that's a man or a woman judge. Okay. Dejarin says, DV 2021. When people say that, it frustrates me because DV 2021 selectees are differently situated depending upon whether or not they are good luck plaintiffs, go plaintiffs, non-plaintiffs, and what U.S. embassy they were waiting on interviews from. The majority of DV 2021 selectees, the journey is over. If you're a good luck plaintiff, identify yourself as a good luck plaintiff, and you have to wait for the outcome of the appeal. Okay. Justice says, any good news from the Islamabad embassy? I do not have good news from the embassy. I have good news from the courts with respect to the embassy. The order that I just showed you, Mahmoud versus Blinken, this is an order involving the delays at U.S. Embassy Islamabad. And the reason the judge did not grant the motion to dismiss is he says, in the order, he says, I don't have any knowledge of what the reason is for the delay at Islamabad. And maybe discovery is necessary to know that. So there is good news for people in this situation waiting on Islamabad that one judge is willing to push back. But he or she may just be for this family, right? Judges can only really address injuries for the plaintiffs that are before them. That's why being on the sidelines and watching other people file litigation, hoping that it benefits you, rarely works out. It has worked out in a few situations, but rarely, right? Okay. Waiting for DV 2020 result. Okay, so you're waiting as a Gomez class member, and I understand we are waiting as well. Waiting on the opinion from the 3-judge panel from the appeal. Okay, Ruin says, sir, don't you think it is time to do something for DV 2021 Good Luck versus Biden? Or at least ask them what is going on? Ruin? No, I do not think it's time to do something for DV 2021 Good Luck versus Biden, because I know the federal rules of civil procedure and I know how courts work. This matter is considered presented. That means the court has accepted briefs from the plaintiffs, from the appellants, the appellees. They've accepted oral arguments, and now they have taken it under consideration. This is the part of the process where we do not get to interfere. Okay, we do not get to ask them what is going on. We know what's going on. They are deliberating over the decision, and that is happening in the context of them having hundreds of other appeals before them. Your appeal is not the only appeal, and they do not issue opinions in case number order. Basically, there's this narrative out there, and it's a mistake, where people think that the courts are the problem and the courts are responsible for our delays. It's the Biden administration, Joseph Biden and Anthony Blinken, who are responsible for the delay, because they are the ones that have appealed the decision to the Circuit Court of Appeals. Appeals take a long time. That's how appeals are. So there's no reason for us to bother the court to tell them that the appeal's taking a long time. They know that. It's because the volume of appeals that they have to do. So the answer is no. And I strongly discourage anyone who I represent from attempting to contact the court or the government lawyers or anything like that. Don't do that. Patience. Patience is our friend. I'm a 2020 selectee with case number 3 .. I was scheduled for an interview on March 5th in Ankara Embassy. Doesn't say what year, but the interview canceled due to coronavirus. Okay, so it was 2020. How much do I have a chance to be called for an interview? There's no way for me to calculate this, but I would say that you probably have an advantage in that your case was already at the embassy when the fiscal year closed. You may have other advantages. You may have other disadvantages. You don't say which embassy you were at. And I hope it's an embassy that's, oh, yes, you do. You say Ankara. Okay. Ankara is still open. It is not an embassy that's that devoted to the DV program, as we saw in the last year. It's one of the embassies that underperformed to the disadvantage of many Turkish and Iranian DV selectees, probably some other nationalities as well. So, but your case is already there, so you probably have an advantage over people's cases who are at NBC, but there's no way to calculate. How would I calculate? I can't calculate the chance. Just have to wait and see what happens. Wow, questions are coming in. I'm one of the plaintiffs in Biden versus Gomez. I don't think you are, okay? The reason is there's only 6 of them, and they were DVs, and they were all issued visas in September of 2020. I think you're a class member. Okay, so my concern is to know if this trial could take 10 years for the verdict in the Court of Appeals to be known. Okay, it's not a trial. We're just waiting for the opinion. Theoretically, yes. I've never seen that happen before. Technically, a meteor could fall from the sky and land on me during this live, but it's not going to happen, right? So, your second question, what justifies this very long wait to know the conclusion? That's the process. That's the court process. That's what justifies the long wait. That's how the court does it. Okay. If we don't want relief from the courts, we don't have to deal with their process, but we do. So we have to deal with their process. We don't object to their process. Okay. Where do 9,095 visas for DV 2020 Gomez? Where to go? I think you're saying who gets them, and you answered your question, Gomez. There are different estimates on how many Gomez class members there are. I think at one time I estimated there were 30 or 40,000 that want visas. That number is always going down because people find other paths. They also die. They also decide not to immigrate. But there's only 9,095 visas. Where to go? Who do they go? They go to the Gomez class members. Not all Gomez class members will get visas. Okay. I think you're asking like which Gomez class members will get visas, and we don't know that. There's no way to know that. Okay. What is your thought on the idea being considered to ask USCIS not to adjudicate Indian National I-140 to help with CISPA, not to adjudicate the petition until the priority date is current, similar to what it is? As I understand that idea, I think it is smart. But that's not the place in immigration where I have the most experience. So go hire an attorney that does have a lot more experience in that and consult with them. Okay, don't rely upon my guidance for that issue when I don't have as much knowledge and experience as someone who works with H-1Bs regularly. Okay, justice prevails. Is there an option for one-on-one consultation with you in regards to CR1 waiting for interview in Islamabad, DQ date, July 2023? Yeah, just give me a call. Drop me an email if you want to set up a time, but I prefer people just call me, and if I'm available, I take the call and we do the consult and it's done. If I don't answer the phone, I prefer you text instead of leave a voicemail because I don't like voicemails. I prefer text. I'm a better typer than listener, I guess. I don't know. Hello, Mr. Morrison. The wait has been too long, but we are still hopeful and patiently waiting for a positive outcome. Good luck. Thank you. I appreciate your attitude. Emily's, the rest of her question, done with a 526 is the length pending I-140 would be keep the age of the children, right? I think that sounds like a sound idea, but it's better to talk to someone who is an expertise in that area. Has expertise in there. Alexandra says, hi. When do you think the priority date of F3 Philippines will move? Nobody likes my answer to this, so everybody ignores it and then re-ask. I don't think that the priority dates for family preference categories are going to move significantly until U.S. citizen petitioners and green card petitioners lobby their members of Congress to intervene with the State Department and ask why the Secretary of State, why the State Department is prioritizing non-immigrant visas over immigrant visas, over family-based immigrant visas. Every year, family-based immigrant visas go unused and roll over to employment categories, while family preference categories like F3, adult children of U.S. citizens and their families, they're not moving. The visa bulletin is not moving, and it's really sad. And I don't think that it won't start moving until they start issuing those visas, and they're not going to start issuing those visas until there's pressure. So if you are a petitioner for a family preference category visa, F1, F2, F3, F4, and the case is not current in the visa bulletin, don't bother the lawyer. The lawyer can't do anything if it's not current in the visa bulletin. Bother your member of Congress. You have one member of Congress and 2 U.S. senators, and each of them have the ability to ask the State Department questions. Now, they're going to, if you call them, they're going to funnel you to the constituent services person, and that person's going to do an inquiry, and they're going to come back and say, oh, that's what's going on. And then you ask a follow-up question. Why is that? Why are they doing a record number of tourist and student visas while families remain separated? Why do they allow family-based, family preference category visas to go unused and roll over to employment categories? Ask these questions of your members of Congress so that they will ask the State Department, and Secretary Blinken will have to answer. Because until he has to answer, he's not going to change the policies. I'm not angry at you for that question. I'm actually very grateful for that question because I wanted to say that all day. Okay. Barry asked, I have a brother, DV 2020, but he was AP before the end of the fiscal year. He still has his documents at the embassy, but because of the junta repression, Guinea, he fled. Okay. Okay, the questions continue down here, I see. It won't let me show the question. He fled to Nicaragua, entered through the Mexican and U.S. border. Do you think he has any chance of being granted asylum? You haven't told me anything about his asylum claim. His asylum claim is best discussed one-on-one with an attorney, and the subject of that would be his credible fear of persecution, past or future persecution. It would not be relevant to his DV 2020. His DV 2020 path is probably over. It's difficult for a asylum seeker to adjust status to DV already because of the perception, the law around how you have to have status to adjust status, and there are only certain exceptions for that. But there's the added layer that we don't know if Gomez visas will be available as green cards for DV 2020 selectees who are located inside the U.S. When I asked the government attorneys that last time I asked, they said they didn't know, but they didn't. He argued why it shouldn't be like that. He said, no, your case was about visas. It wasn't about green cards. Good point. Fair point. Not a good point. Because USCIS was a defendant in one of the lawsuits. So, or Department of Homeland Security. I can't remember. So anyway, don't know the answer as far as the DV path, asylum path. Don't know the answer, but you need this. Seeking asylum is something that is very fact dependent upon each individual circumstances, and also something that it can't be done. You have to hire a professional to look at that. Okay, doesn't have to be me, but you have to hire a professional. You can't treat seeking asylum like a casual thing, because only a few people are able to get through, and it's based upon the strength of their application. So you don't want to make mistakes with that process. Marcus Gunn asked a question, and I'm trying to make it show. Is there a separate document of USCIS dealing with TPS EAD versus others, or do they all go to the same office? USCIS has several processing centers. You don't get to choose which processing center. You can find what the processing centers are, but you don't get to choose which one you send your petition or application to by going to USCIS wait times. If you Google that, there's a website, and it'll show the drop-down boxes for where each petition is processed. Like today, I noticed I-131s are just processed in Nebraska, for example. Okay. I've already answered that. Is there a possibility that the government wins parts of the appeals? Yes. The reason is there's more than one issue. Notice she didn't say which appeal. You said the appeal. And there's actually an appeal of Go, appeal Good Luck, an appeal of Gomez, an appeal of Ray, and a cross appeal for Go. So there's a few different appeals, but each of them have a statement of issues, 4 to 6 issues, and it's possible that the court can agree with some issues and not others. And that's why it's not when the outcome of the appeal comes, I'm glad you asked this question, it won't be, we won or we lost. It'll be an interpretation of what the Court of Appeals said in their opinion, okay? Unless we win everything, and then it'll be like, yeah, we won. Okay. Does USCIS have a separate department? Oh, I answered that. Can the fact that Good Luck had 24,000 plaintiffs have an impact on the reasoning of the judges? I'm sure it's context for the opinion, but importantly, that's not one of the legal issues that the courts are overwhelmed with the legal issues that they have to weigh in on. They don't have time to weigh in on context around those usually. Those legal issues, they're important. So they're going to focus on the issues that were appealed, not other issues, okay? Remember, at the beginning of the process of Good Luck, they try to argue that there is conflict of interest with you. Yes, the government did try to argue that. The government was trying to do everything they could to shut me down and stop me from representing diversity visa selectees. That is true. Last question. Do you have a specific reading on why it takes so long time? If you're talking about the Good Luck repeal, yes, appeals take a long time. That's why. I discourage the narrative that blames the courts and the justice system for the delays caused by Secretary Blinken and President Biden. Okay. MT says, given that there were 400,000 newly granted TPS, will this further delay USCIS process for other applications waiting on their I-485 EAD AP? Good question. I don't know the answer to that. That's a USCIS resource decision. The only thing I know new about USCIS resources is I saw Director Jadot and also Secretary Mayorkas were both in New York City to celebrate and observe the coordination between state government agencies and USCIS in processing work permits quickly right now, EADs. So that appears to be a focus of USCIS. So it could impact, usually when a government agency prioritizes one thing, it means deprioritization for other things. So you have probably correctly identified a risk that could happen. Eduardo says, Judge, we have already forgotten our case DV 2020 Gomez. I'm not a judge. I am the attorney that represents, one of the attorneys that represent many DV 2020 selectees. So I don't know why you're addressing me as a judge, but if you had forgotten about your DV 2020 Gomez case, why are you here? I don't think you forgot about it. Okay. That wraps up the questions. 30-minute show. That's great. I'll see you next Wednesday for episode 49 of Let's Talk Immigration. Have a great weekend. Bye.